Hello friends and welcome back once again. Today is very exciting. I'm ending off part 3 in what has been just a quick little series based on prophetic art, based on some questions I've gotten, based on just some stuff I've been dying to expand on, but just haven't had a chance to. So if you've been following along faithfully, stay tuned for the end of the chapter, and if you're not entirely sure what I'm talking about, check the cards above. I'll link one of the videos. I'll link the playlist maybe, and you can have a look and catch yourself right back up. Now, first things first, if you're new around here, my name is Lalani, and on this channel we talk about living God's word and exploring our creativity. If you're into any of that, please be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, all those wonderful things, and be part of the family. But on to today's video. Now, if you haven't followed along and you kind of want the nutshell version of where we're at, in the first video, I expanded a bit on this thing that I like to call our creative inheritance. This thing where creativity is something we all have access to because we're all made in God's image. And the very first thing we get to know about him is that he is a creator, which makes him creative. Now, we expand a little bit more on that in the first video. In the second one, I dive a bit into creativity in the word, how God partners with creatives, how he loves to celebrate beauty and just does things through people that he could very easily opt not to, which is what makes it so incredible. And today, the thing I want to talk about is how I got started, and maybe it can help you get started. I think the amount of comments that I get, the amount of DMs that I get from people who say watching one of my videos was this confirmation from the Lord for them that it's time for them to pursue their art. It's time for them to create with God. They had this inkling, they kind of felt like they should, and then they watched the video and then everything just got unlocked for them. Which just, can I say, so amazing. Love your guys' feedback. I love hearing your cool stories. But it is incredible how it really just takes one little word, one little confirmation for us to almost feel released to pursue what God has called us to. But today I want to share a bit about how I got started with prophetic art and just some practical things that I did to kind of explore this whole medium, this whole avenue of art. I hope it's helpful to you. Let me know in the comments if it is. But I think for me, now I have a video on this channel where I share a bit about my encounter with the Lord and how I heard his voice for the first time. So I'm not going to go into that. You can watch that video above here. But I had this beautiful encounter with God, hearing his voice for the first time, or at least I didn't know that that is what it was at the time. But later on, as I was reading my Bible and I got exposed to a different language, I realized, oh, this was God speaking to me. I kind of had a suspicion. I kind of thought it was. I kind of hoped it was, but it definitely was. And so I remember I joined a new church and I met some amazing people, and it was around that time that I started getting back into art again. Now, I went to design school, and there I got reintroduced to my love for art, my love for drawing, my love for creating. And the thing about the graphic design industry is, as much as it's a creative industry, it doesn't always lend itself to a lot of creativity. Sometimes you just very simply have to follow the brief. It's not really your vision. It's not really what you're conceptualizing. It is about putting down someone else's vision. And so it was after college, entering back into the workforce, that I realized, you know what, I think I need to make art a daily practice again. I think I need to reintroduce this into my daily life. And so, as one does when you create stuff, you share it online. And I started sharing some of my work on social media, you know, as one does. And one of the ladies in my church cornered me the one Sunday, and she was like, hey, I never knew you could draw. Like, this is amazing. She's like, you really should explore prophetic art and see how you can create with God and partner with him in your art making process. And I honestly had never heard the term before. I'd never thought to explore the term before. And she just casually mentioned it, and it stuck with me. And so I was like, what do we do here? What is this? Now, I know about the prophetic. I know about God speaking. I know about his voice. But combining that with art, I'm very confused. I'm not entirely sure how we go about that. So I did what I normally do when I find something that I'm confused by, is I go find some books to read. I go find videos online. I try and educate myself in any way I can. And so I got an amazing book that I actually can't find in my bookshelf at all here behind me, because I'm pretty sure it's on loan with someone. But I got a book by Teresa Dedman called Born to Create. I'll put it on the screen here. But this book really opened a whole new world for me, because this woman was sharing testimonies about people who created stuff in partnership with God and how just really cool stuff happened. It was incredible. The next book I dove into was this book by Janet Yun, who is an amazing artist, and she shared some incredible testimonies. Stuff that I can now say I've experienced myself. I think one of the things that she shared that just, I think I had a moment with this, was she shared about how God gives you the grace to paint what he calls you to paint, because she's a painter. And how she had this major commission to do, and she had no idea how she was going to do it. Just practically, she didn't have the hours, she painted too slow. But when she said yes to God, because she felt like God was on it, he gave her the grace to be able to create it. And it was that story that encouraged me years later to say yes to God asking me to paint a painting, which I made a video about, and I'll link it up here as well. Because I figured, God, if you're going to give her the grace, then surely you're going to give me the grace too. And I, to this day, have no idea how I actually finished this painting. How it ended up looking like something, I actually have no idea. But it must have been Jesus, is all I can say. But I started reading these books, and it was incredible just to see how people partnered their faith with God. And suddenly it felt very logical. And so I started with little things. So I got a little visual journal, just a little tiny one. I wanted to show it to you, but it is in storage at the moment. But I started with my prophetic words. I remember shortly after hearing about this whole prophetic art thing, someone prayed for me. They gave me a prophetic word that was tied to very specific imagery. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to draw that. And so I drew it, and I wrote the little verse that went with it, and that was me. And a couple of weeks later, someone else prayed something over me, and I drew a picture to represent that as well. And so that book became just this place where I was starting to document my own prophetic words. And that's how I kind of got started very practically. I just started documenting what I was receiving. But in my heart, I kind of wanted to take it a step further, because now this is just like documenting what has already been said. It's not really me partnering with God. It is someone else partnering with God and me capturing it. And I kind of wanted to take a step further. I wanted to partner with God. And so someone in church, I can't remember who, fairly certain it may have been this lady, she said, hey, we've got a women's retreat coming up. Why don't you create something for that? And it was true. We had a ladies' retreat coming up at our church. And I was kind of like, okay, challenge accepted. I'm going to trust God for something. I'm going to trust him for a word. I'm going to trust him. And I really felt like I should paint something, but I'm so scared to paint. Paint still terrifies me. But I thought, look, I'm not going to dive in. I'm going to get scrap paper and charcoal. And that is what I'm going to create on. I'm going to see if I can find that little doodle. But I remember just praying, and the Lord showed me something. And I'm like, I have no idea what the theme is of this weekend. I have no idea what they have in mind for the weekend. I have no idea of anything that is planned for this weekend. But here is me painting paintings and drawing pictures and trusting God. And I have no idea whether this is going to fit anywhere or if I'm on the right track, but we're going to go with it. And I got this picture. I happen to be friends with one of the ladies who work in the office of our church. And so I messaged her. I'm like, please, can we have coffee? And I thought, you know what, a safe little space to show this work would be with her. So we had coffee, and I said to her, hey, listen, I've been praying, and I really felt that the Lord showed me this for the ladies' weekend. Now, I don't know where this fits. I don't know if this is significant. I don't know any of that, but I just felt to show you. And maybe if it means anything, you can do something with it. I don't know. But otherwise, it really is just me feeling very silly and trusting Jesus is about what it was. And what it was this woman, what I felt like I saw was a woman with a long dress, and it's almost like the train of the dress turned into these peacock feathers. And it was just this thing of like God revealing beauty, which is a whole story, but I'm not going to get into all the details of it. But that was kind of what I saw. Women with just arms in the air, this dress cascading down and it turning into peacock feathers. And she looked at this picture that I just did a quick little charcoal drawing for because I hadn't had the heart to paint it yet. And she just says to me, like, wait 1 second. And she gets her phone out and she shows me the design that they had made for little gifts. It was a little keyring. And on that keyring was a peacock. And he was talking about being beautiful and being loved. And I saw that and my heart stopped. Had I actually partnered with God? Had he really spoken to me and me created something that partnered with him to actually be aligned with what he's saying to other people? This is crazy. And so that was such a cool moment. I ended up painting the picture and I'll share the whole story with that as well. But that whole story progressed in me actually drawing live at this event. A friend of mine painted, like we just ended up celebrating creativity at this weekend all together. And that for me was like that first step of faith, that first confirming moment that, oh wow, God, like you can use this. You can use this gift to speak to people. I ended up painting the painting, ended up taking it the weekend, gave it away to someone, and it was just incredible. But that was really where I started. I started with capturing words other people had given me. Then I kind of stepped out in this moment, but then also I have had so many cool stories of just how in my own quiet time I've gotten stuck, or I haven't known what to pray and I haven't known what to say, or I'm not really sure what God is saying, or I know what he's saying, but I kind of want to just sit on it for a minute, and how drawing something or painting something has really been the key to unlock that. And maybe we'll get more into that as we go. But what I really want to encourage you with is you don't have to start on stage, is basically what I'm saying. You don't have to create something with hundreds of people watching every Sunday morning. You don't have to start there. I mean, if you have the opportunity and God is leading you, go for it. But you don't have to. I really just honestly didn't know where to start. I didn't know, I didn't have the faith for it. And so I just started capturing what other people had. And it was so cool every time I looked through that notebook, and it still is, because every time I see a visual, I remember who prayed. I remember what they prayed. I don't have to read the notes because I wrote very small, like what they prayed. I don't have to read those notes because just seeing it brings it all back in a moment. And I think that's the wonder of art, is by seeing a visual, by looking at a picture. It's just something in our minds that's triggered and you're there again. You're in that moment. You're in that memory. So that's where I started. Then we try to have faith and say, okay, well, someone else is hearing from God. Let me try hear from him too about the same thing. And see if we're hearing the same thing. Because if God is speaking to you, and obviously in the church office there's a couple of people praying, so he obviously spoke to all of you on the same thing. If I can get on that page, wow, that must mean God is speaking right now. And I think that was such a cool stirring of faith for me to actually say, okay, God, I believe you. I believe that you can do this. I believe that this is something that's powerful. I believe this is something that you can work through. And it was there that I started to move into and start pursuing this whole prophetic art thing. To take something I really love, which is creating, making art, making beautiful things, and saying, God, here is my offering. How do you want to use it? What do you want to do with it? And now it's become my art to help other people experience that for themselves as well. So friends, I don't know if this story helps you in any way. I hope it does. I hope it at least encourages you. That it doesn't have to be a complicated thing to get started. Just start somewhere, just start creating and just start talking to the Lord. And if there's little opportunities wherever you find yourself in your community, in your church, go for it, try. See, God, are we saying the same thing? Are we hearing the same thing? God does tend to speak with one voice. So dare to trust him, go for it, create, and have some fun. Let me know where you're at in your creative journey. Let me know in the comments below. Have you given it a try yet? Are you keen to try? Where are you at? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell. And if you think anyone else will be blessed by it, remember to share it with them. But until the next one, keep creating.